Hello and welcome to the ASEC webinar on measuring impactful hubs through programs. My name is Michelle Njuri. I'm the ASEC Communications Officer. We'll give participants 5 more minutes to join before we start the session. Maybe we could start by introducing ourselves and getting to know each other. Thank you so much for joining. So thank you all so much for joining. I believe we have enough participants. As I said, thank you for making the time to be with us for this Measuring Impactful Hubs webinar. My name is Michelle Njuri. I'm the ASEC Communications Officer. Today, I would like to tell you a bit about ASEC, what we do, and so I'll start off by telling you that ASEC, we're the Association for Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya, and we support the growth and development of startup and SMEs. And we have 5 objectives at ASEC, which are policy, where we drive policy for our members and ensure that our partners and investors, we can develop rigorous policy systems with them. We also have capacity building, whereby we ensure and we drive capacity for our members with other stakeholders and ensure that there's also compliance and amongst also professional development and stakeholders. We also have empowerment, whereby we actively scout for opportunities for our members, and where necessary, we facilitate collaborations. We also have internationalization, whereby we promote and position the players in the Kenyan entrepreneurship ecosystem. And we also have collaboration, whereby we ease knowledge sharing and information and best practices amongst the members in the ecosystem. So today I am pleased to welcome Grace Wasseri. She is the Community and Engagement Lead at BLab East Africa. She's also an experienced program manager with a demonstrated history of programs. And as a Community and Engagement Lead at BLab East Africa, she works and believes in building businesses by using business as a force for good. So thank you so much all for joining. It is my great pleasure to introduce Grace Wasseri. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. My name is Grace, as I've been mentioned. I work for BLab East Africa as a community engagement lead. I hope you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
You can hear me, thank you. And also happen to serve on the ASEC board as a secretary currently. I'm glad I've been away from work for the last 1 month, but I'm back now and I'm looking forward to engaging with you. Just allow me to share my screen. Sorry about that, just give me a second. Okay. All right, I'll just start with an introduction of who BLab is, and then I'll go more in depth about what is impact and how do we measure that. And the tools that we use to measure that here at BLab East Africa. So BLab East Africa is a part of the global network called BLab. We are the NGO that's behind Certified B Corporation, and today we shall be having that impact measurement and management workshop. We believe in a better way of doing business, which I'll be elaborating on what that is. Now, when we look at the evolution of business in the last 20th century, we see that shareholder capitalism has been the norm. It has been extractive, exclusive of multiple partners, and has been very focused on one partner as shareholders. By the transition to the 21st century, we're able to see that stakeholder capitalism is becoming the new norm. We're not just thinking about shareholders, but we're thinking about all players that are involved in a business. We're thinking about being more inclusive in our workplace, being more inclusive with the environment, and bringing all these multi-partners together. When we look at how the market is changing, it's not only being dictated by the trends in market, but also customers are starting to demand some change. We want to see that the product that got to our table did not infringe on anyone's rights. at all. We want to see that the places of work that we are having or that we are presenting, the businesses that we are having, are not just triggering and focusing on profit only, but some purpose as well. How was this done in the last 20 years? We saw certifications are based on specific products, specific processes or procedures, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these certifications on the left side of the screen. When you talk about USDA Organic, Energy Star is common here. Now we have KEBS and the like. And as we're shifting to the 21st century, we want to have a certification that's not just about the products, that's not just about the processes, that's not just about compliance, but that certifies an organization as a whole. And that's why we have a certified B Corporation certification that I'll be talking to you a little later. So B Lab was founded in 2007. As I said, it's a nonprofit that's behind B Corp certification. We support a global movement of people using business as a force for good. Our vision is of an inclusive, regenerative, equitable economic system for all people and the planet. Where we not only think about profit, but we think about the people, that we think about the planet, where we operate in, where we hire from, where we sell our products to. How do all these players within our businesses come in together? So our approach to systems change makes an alternative viable and scalable, option. We start by building a community of thousands of credible leaders who are called B Corps, and that will be step one. And that's by developing the market infrastructure, being able to bring these leaders that are like-minded, who are not just thinking about profit, but purpose as well. And you'll ask me, how do I do that? How does that affect my bottom line? But what we propagate on is having a business that is commercial, but is also focusing on creating some purpose around it. And how we do that is ensuring that you have something we call impact business models. That way you're able to have impact as well as profit every day without having to do something extra within your business, right? So step two, what we've done, we've created tools that make it easy for millions of other businesses to follow. And I'll be sharing these tools with you. We have two tools, the B Impact Assessment tool that kind of just checks the stakeholders of the business. And we have the Sdg Action Manager that helps a business to track how they are doing on attaining the Vision 2030 SDGs. Step three, we inspire billions of consumers and workers, investors, and others to support businesses who are force for good. So we are a global movement, and we bring these like-minded business owners, leaders together to inspire that change that will bring a culture shift, that will bring a mindset shift, one step at a time. And at the end of it, we hope to have a shared and durable prosperity for all people and planet. Okay, and my slides are stuck here. So far, since our inception in 2007, we have more than 3,000 certified B Corps across the world, and I'll be showing you a few of those examples. So far, we have more than 3,500 certified B Corps across the world, across 160 industries, across 75 countries, and we have one unifying goal. We are, like I said, a community of leaders that are accelerating a global culture shift to redefine success in business and build a more inclusive and sustainable economy. When you look at these logos, there are some of the B Corps that we have in the world. I'm sure there are names there that are familiar to you. Some of these names, I'm sure you're even, you'd want to contact them, you'd want to benchmark with them, get some mentoring. There are some of the movement that we have across the world. Our B Corps are able to ping them directly on some of our resources that we have. These are also B Corps that are here in Africa, and some of these names may be familiar to you. Some of the B Corps that we have here in Africa, just to share what that looks like. Now, when I talked about the tools that we have the Sdg Action Manager. This was developed in collaboration with the UNGC. It was actually launched last year in January. It brings together the B Impact Assessment that I'll be taking you through, the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact, and the Sustainability Development Goals. It helps a business to enable meaningful action through dynamic self-assessment, benchmarking, and improvement. Basically, what this tool helps you do, it helps you as a business be able to see, when I'm working on the SDGs, it has a baseline survey. You're able to answer that, and it's able to automatically trigger what SDGs you're working on. Then after that, it allows you to choose other SDGs that you can set some goals and track your progress towards it. So this tool is very much futuristic. This tool is also not verified. So this tool, the results of it cannot be used for outside reporting. They will only be used for internal reporting, but they are good to track for a business to just see how they're doing to get in there. I think we're in a place where all of us, as businesses, as SMEs, we're saying that we are getting somewhere. We are working on the SDGs and kind of don't know how to track that. This is an absolutely incredible tool to be able to do that. And the upside of it is it's based online and it's a free tool. So once you just log in, you just need to create an account, log in, start answering the questions on the baseline. They'll be able to tell you which SDGs you're actually already taking on. And then after that, choose a few SDGs, make some goals, and then track your progress towards attaining that. You're also able to add as many team members as you would like to be able to exchange that information with the team members to just see how we're doing on tracking our impact when it comes to sustainability development goals. All right. The other tool that we have is called the Big Impact Assessment. We call it BIA for short. It is also free, a free tool. It's on a confidential online platform. It has been designed to help measure and manage your company's positive impact. Remember, positive impact on your workers, communities, customers, environment, and your own governance structure. And I'll be showing you in more depth how that looks like. Over the past couple of years, we have more than 70,000 users of the BIA with more than 100 partnerships. We help tens of thousands of businesses, investors, and institutions to measure their impact with as much rigor as they do their profits by using the B assessment, gaining the certification, and other supportive programs and partnerships that we have, such as what we have today. So we have worked with investor and fund managers. We have worked with supply chain managers, banks, multinationals, incubators, and accelerators. As some of that are here, we've worked with. We have worked with E4 Impact extensively. We've worked with RSOC, and we continue to do that. And we're excited to be partnering with ASEC to be able to help hubs to see how they can be able to do this even for yourselves. All right. Now, the path to B Corp certification roadmap, I just want to let you know how this is and get it out of the way, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritties of the actual impact measurement. So we go through the B Impact Assessment, which is a tool that goes through that. Then we understand the legal requirement and pathway. One of the requirements for B Corp certification is legal accountability. We want to be able to measure, to protect the mission, to protect the mission of the business. We want to be able to ensure that as a business owner, whatever mission you sent out for your business is cemented, and that when you move away from the business or you outgrow it, that the mission that you intended for the business will never change. And how we do this is by two ways. One way, we change the language in the Articles of Incorporation, where we say that profit maximization is not just for shareholders only, but for stakeholders as well. And that is, we call a legal pathway amendment. So you just change the language in the Articles of Incorporation. We have language that has already been approved here in Kenya, and so that's what we use. The other way we do this is we have countries where we have a legislation that has been passed by the parliament, I would say, like for example here, where you are able to register a business or change the incorporation or legislation into a benefit corporation that has the same idea and it has its own standards to it. In Africa, we've just passed this in Rwanda. And you know, as we progress, we'll be trying to do that in Kenya, but that has happened in Rwanda already. The other requirement you would want to have is get your team and leaders buy-in. I mean, such a mission is so huge. Such a mission is very inspiring. And at the end of the day, you need the team buy-in, you need the leadership buy-in. And that's what you'd require to do this. Now, the BIA is a scored assessment. Michelle, kindly help me. If you're talking, kindly unmute yourself. Kindly mute yourself. So the BIA is a rated score. It's out of 200 points. When you get 80 points and above, that's when you are eligible to go into verification, and it's a rigorous verification. So you need to submit your BIA to complete the verification process. Would be the second step to go through, and this verification would involve just affirming that what answers you put were true. It will ask you for a lot of documentation. There's a lot of calling, a lot of back and forth. Sometimes we even have a site visit to your offices to see that you're actually saying the truth. Then would meet the legal requirement where I said we would change the legal pathway. And this is not jargon. We are always here to support you through this process. Now, once you still have a verified score of 80 points and above, then you can become certified as a B Corp. If you fall below the 80 points, we're also here to help you improve your impact to get to a place where you get to 80 and you're able to certify as a B Corp, and that's not a problem either. We don't send you away and say, no, you don't qualify. We help you come up to the 80 and get there. Sometimes you can be a business who is ready and you can go right away. Sometimes you can be a business that's not ready and we can help you work through that, depending on how fast you're able to get there, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether it's 2 months, whether it's 1 year, whether it's 3 years. However fast you're able to do this, we're able to work with you. Now, once you finalize that, we sign something called a B Corp agreement. That is the language that you'll actually be able to profit maximization, not just for shareholders, but for stakeholders as well. After that, we sign also something called the Declaration of Interdependence. This good that we want to see for the planet and the people, it cannot be achieved by one business. It can only be achieved by all of us working together. We must be the change that we want to see. And the language in this Declaration of Interdependence goes to say that I must be the change I want to see, and that I need to depend on another business. We need to depend on each other to be able to get there. And that's the Declaration of Interdependence. That we pay the annual fees. We have a good schedule of how the annual fees look like, which are also called the certification fees. This is a scale that's rated according to the income that you get. So there's no one size fits all. It's all dependent on your annual income. Then there's rated. For example, if your annual income is between $0 to about $50,000, you'd pay an annual fee of $300, which is pretty affordable. Then after that, you would be certified as a B Corp, as a certified B Corporation, and this will be the company that meets the highest standards of social and environmental impact. After that, we would be able to announce your results to the whole world. So we have 3 main stages. The one is social and environmental performance. How are you doing that? How are you seeing that impact? And that's through the BIA, which explained a verified score of 80 plus out of 200. Accountability would be a legal framework, how you adopt the legal framework to consider all stakeholders by changing that language in the Articles of Incorporation. And transparency, we want to be able to be transparent and say how we are measuring this, and that would be by submitting your scores on our public directory, where everyone really is able to see how you scored as an overall impact score and how you scored in every impact area and how you score against the companies that have taken this assessment in the past, either by company size or by industry, because we are industry agnostic. All right. I've talked a lot. I don't know if there's a question so far. No? Okay. I will continue. Then you'll ask me, what is the value of certification, Grace? And I'll let you know. So you are able to join a global community of leaders. Like I said, from the logos that I showed you, all of these B Corps are available on a portal where you're able to just ping them away, whether it's asking for new markets, whether it's asking for investors among the B Corp community, whether it's some mentorship you'd like, whether it's some benchmarking you'd like, whether it's some collaboration you'd like. All these global community leaders are found within the portal. And when COVID was not here, we had a biannual retreat where we'd bring our B Corps together, from all parts of the world to be able to just interact. Okay. Another benefit, it helps you to benchmark and improve your impact. You're able to see the companies that are being able to take this assessment. How do you score? Do you score averagely based on your industry? Do you score averagely based on your company size or not? And if you fall below, then you know what to work on, because you're able to see where I scored below par and you're able to see how to improve that. We are also able to help you with that improvement with the resources that we have, and also with experts that we work with who would be able to support you through that. Now, this is an objective third-party validation, and that means that you're not just the one who is saying that you're having impact. You've actually been tested by a third party, and you've been found to be in good standing. You've been found to not just say that you actually have impact, but you are actually been found to have this impact. Yes, James Obonyo, you have a question?
Hi, Grace. I
Hi,
was wondering if we just finish, then I'll have the question later if you don't mind.
that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. So someone is asking what are the benefits, and I'm going through that right now. So that objective, that party validation, that actually differentiates you from your competitors. Why there is trust? Because we are looking at the governance, how you make decisions within your organization. We are looking at how you deal with your employees, and I'll be showing you in detail what that is. Then we're looking at how you deal with your community. We're looking at how you deal with your customers, and you're also looking at how you interact with the environment that you operate in. So you differentiate yourself from your competitors because you're able to tell this is a big corp whose products arrive well, get to our table well, whose services get to us well. We know that there are good governance decisions that have been made. We know that they're compliant to the laws of the land. We know that they treat their employees well. We know that they treat their suppliers well. We know that they actually listen to their customers, and that differentiates you from your competitors. It also helps you to attract and engage talent. We are finding the millennials that are coming up. You're finding new talent that's coming up that wants to be able to work for organizations that actually take care of them, that are actually concerned more about the environment, more about people than they are about the profit. And so it will help you get good talent and actually keep it, reducing your attrition rates, thereby reducing some overheads, probably reducing some training costs, and therefore saving you some money. It also helps you to protect the mission that I had already talked about by changing the wording in the articles of memorandum. You are certain that that mission is going to prevail even after you leave. This came from the founders of BLab had founded a company where they took care of all things, but they had to sell it. They were friends and they had to sell it. And the new leader stripped off everything that concerned the stakeholders within the first couple of years. And in 5 years, it was a shell of really what they had built on. And so they were inspired to start something that would actually hold companies accountable in ensuring that they don't just take care of the profits, but the purpose, but the environment, the people that they work and operate in. It also helps you raise capital. A lot of investors want to see what kind of impact are you having. And by going through this process, you're able to see, all right, I'm not just saying I have impact, I actually have impact because I've been able to track that impact. Then I've been able to measure it. Then aside from measuring myself, I've been able to be verified. And going forward beyond that, I'm able to manage that impact. So you're able to speak, you're able to have an actual certification speak on your behalf and attract that and help you raise that capital that you need. It eliminates the risk factor. It eliminates the doubt that could be there by also building some trust with your stakeholders. And the other thing about raising capital is within the B Corp community, there's a lot of investors there. And so you're also able to get access to these investors once you do that. Our website, by the way, is b_labafrica.net. If you're able to just look at that, you'll be able to see a lot more of what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, let's come down to BLab East Africa itself. Our mission is to accelerate a shift in how business is done to define business success, not just for profit, but also for purpose. Sorry for that typo. To encourage businesses to work towards positive impact for all stakeholders, and that will be the workers, the customers, the community, and the environment, plus your own governance structure. And how do we do this? For impact measurement, management, and reporting, we have the BIA that I'm about to show you. We have another tool called the B Analytics. This one brings it's like an investor portfolio. You're able to have an overarching view of the BIAs for your businesses. So it enables a portfolio manager to be able to see how their companies are performing on the BIA on the back end. And then we have the Sdg Action Manager that I mentioned. We also have capacity building where we have businesses training and improvement. We also have peer-to-peer learning. That happens through trainings, that happens through workshops like you're having one today. And we're able to collaborate, we're able to curate something based on the size of the companies that you have, and that will be beneficial for them. We're also able to help you impact governance, promoting mission-aligned governance. How does that look like? We have experts that work in this area, and we're able to work with you to get that. Advocacy, we also advocate for policy change and benefit cooperation legislation. Like I said, in Rwanda, we just passed that. In this country, we have the language, and we're working with ASEC on the startup bill, and we're working with CISOC on the SME bill. Okay. Now, I want us to get into the nitty-gritty of the of the actual impact. And I don't know if you have any question. I don't see anything on the chat, but I want to welcome you to just put one word. Either you can unmute yourself and say, or type on the chat, what comes to your mind when you talk about impact? How would you describe impact? So go ahead, either unmute yourself, say one word or two, or write on the chat for me. What is impact for you? Hello. Thank you. Outcome, change, results. Thank you for that. Change, outcome, transformation. Change. So there's a common theme there. There's influence, reasons for existence. There's change, transformation, outcome, target. Okay. That's on impact. When I talk about sustainability, then what is it that you think about? Put that in the chat as well, or unmute yourself. Sustainability, intended result, positive result or outcome and change, the future, self-sufficient, okay? Ability to continue, long-term, great. Shared value, future relevance, yes. Consistent results, great. Thank you for those answers, I appreciate that. All right, when you talk about corporate social responsibility, what comes to your mind? CSR, what comes to your mind? Put it on the chat. Giving back to society. CSR equals lies, hype, speed. Okay, Joan. Social purpose, commitment to remain accountable, governance. Thank you for those answers. Keep them coming. Thank you very much for them answers. CSR, I'm not getting so many answers on the CSR one. Yeah, PR, conscience. Okay. All right, thank you. I hope I have not missed any. Thank you very much for all those answers. I appreciate it a lot. I want us to be able to differentiate these three because sometimes they can be quite overarching. And kusema pole, strategic philanthropy, community engagement. Okay, I like them answers. When you talk about impact, really, we are talking about what we see, the outcome that we see from the things that we input. So all these inputs that we give into our business, whether it's programs within our hubs, and we have all this input that we are putting in. And once we put in that input, we want to be able to see what comes out of it. But there's a difference. There's the immediate outcome, and then there's the impact. And we talk about impact, we're actually looking at the evidence of what we actually put in, at the evidence with all the stakeholders that we are dealing with. We want to see the evidence in our governance. We want to see the evidence in our consumers, who are our customers. We want to see the evidence in our workers, the evidence in the environment where we're operating on, okay? When we think about sustainability, we think about overarching for generations to come, the long haul of it, the longevity of your business, the loyalty of our customers, the long haul of it. It's always about the long-term effects. Will the generation that's coming after me be able to, will my business stick around until the generation that's after me is able to come and find it there and pick it up? Sustainability. So impact is the evidence of the impact. We want to see the evidence, all right? Sustainability is that long haul, that long-term sustainability. We want to see, is it going to be there in a very, very long term? And then corporate social responsibility, it's true. A lot of us use it as PR. And the way I want us to look at it through this is being something we do ad hocly. It's something we do when we feel like it. It's something we do to just tick a box. It's something we do to just show people that we're actually doing this. But is it actually planned within organizations? Are we actually holding ourselves accountable to it? Or do we say, I have the money, yeah, let's do this. If we don't have the money, forget about it. COVID has hit, forget about it. And that's the shift I want us to have. So we are looking on how we can make our businesses have proper evidence for what we are actually giving in. For the programs that we are having, we are putting all these inputs. Can the outcomes that we have become impact, where we see evidence of social and environmental impact, so that our businesses are around much longer? In Africa and in Kenya, and I know you'll agree with me, we are in a survival mode. We are always just trying to survive. We're just trying to survive. And sometimes we will do anything for that profit. And we say that the means justify the end. Kindly mute yourself. Thank you. So we like I was saying, we are always in a survival mode, and we are always thinking about the money, and we're thinking that the means justifies the end, and we'll do anything to get to the end. We'll do anything for that money. We'll do anything for that profit. If you're here and you're hearing me, and I'm saying that something that's not true, sometimes we do anything, or we try to do almost everything to justify getting that money. But here's the thing. How many companies do we have in Kenya that we already know that started as small SMEs, and they grew up into large corporations, and they boomed, and they had a huge boom, but today they do not exist anymore because they did not take care of the means. They only thought about the process, the profit. They only thought about the end. The means really makes sense. The means is really what is going to ensure that your business is around in 10 years, that your business grows, that in 10 years will be like we started as a startup, we became an SME, and now we have grown into a large corporation because you thought about the means, because you thought about your suppliers, because you thought about your employees, because you thought about the environment that you operate from, because you thought about your customers, and you made them partners of your business, and you're able to actually do that. Okay. So that's what we'll be looking at today. How do we turn the inputs that we have into outputs that actually become impact so that our businesses are around forever? And how are we able to actually meet this social responsibility in a way that is structured, in a way that holds us accountable without doing anything extra for how we run our businesses every day? Okay, so you'll ask me, why impact? We support mainly focused core growth factors. There's training on market, finance, investment, business model, canvas, and the like. There's B2B linkages and challenges that we experience. So, just normally how we run our businesses. And we want to be able to appeal to potential buyers, partners, investors, and be very keen on the sustainability component of our businesses. And that's why you're here today. You want to know that you're actually having impact because you set out to have impact. Maybe you're tracking that impact. Maybe you're measuring it. Maybe you're trying to find a way to verify it. So because it's important to you, that's why you've signed up for this webinar. By ensuring your revenue and growth and at the same time being community oriented to give you a competitive edge. How do you become competitive while still making that profit, but also becoming community oriented? Okay. And we talked about what impact is. I don't know. Okay, there are a variety of dimensions to look at that impact. So when you talk about impact management project, they refer to impact as material effects experienced by people and planet, both positive and negative. We may describe impact in terms of overcoming challenges and achieving certain outcomes. So let's be clear, there's positive and negative impact based on what you put in your business and what you get out of it, regardless of the size that you are. All right. But we as B-Lab concentrate on the positive impact. We want to be able to encourage you that you're actually having that impact and you're able to measure it. Now, I said we need to be clear on how your inputs become impact. So this map helps you to see that very, very clearly. What do we put in? We put in input, certain resources that are needed to operate your project every day. Then what do we do? The activities in there that if you have access to them, then you can use them to accomplish your planned activities, right? Then what we create is the output. Outputs are those results which are achieved immediately after implementing an activity. Once we create that, then what happens? We have the outcome. Is a short-term or mid-term result of an output. Outcomes are not seen immediately after the end of that project activity. And then what difference does it make is actually what is the impact. It's a positive, negative. There's a positive and a negative. Primary, secondary, long-term results provided by a project activity, directly or indirectly, intended or unintended. So I think this puts in perspective what we're trying to measure is the impact. Because you put in some inputs there, you're able to do some activities that give you some immediate outputs, and then you had an outcome. And this outcome, we want to see translate into impact, right? Yes, impact measurement also focuses on unintended and unintended and unintended change is very true. And those intended or unintended is what we want to be able to measure and see, is it positive or is it negative, for us to be concentrating on what's positive. Now, I'm thinking about you're a business there who wants to start tracking this so that you're able to actually get to a place where you're able to measure, because you can't measure something that you've not been able to track. So some of the things that you need to think about is who will be responsible for gathering the data. Every project that you have you put in measures along the project cycle, areas where you're able to gather data and synthesize that data so that it gives you information on how to separate the outcomes from the impact. The outputs, the outcomes, and the impact. What is the cost of collecting that data? Because if you're serious about this, it's going to cost your business something. So you need to think about what's the cost of that. What is your current measurement and management system? Do you have any? Let's say you're tracking this through an Excel sheet, you're tracking this through a Google form, whatever sort of rudimentary type of way you're tracking it. You're able to track that when we train these much people, they were able to acquire these skills. In the immediate sense, they were able to improve a little bit. And because of the improvement in their capabilities, they have been able to reach these much people. And these much people that have been able to reach, these are the differences we are seeing in their businesses and in their lives because of acquiring that training from these people that you've been able to train. Or because we are directly able to train them, this is what in the short term we've been able to see. Maybe they have been able to save some money, maybe they've been able to hire new people. But in the long term, because of the capacity now they have, they've been able to impact more businesses, they've been able to bring livelihoods higher, they've been able to bring the cost of living down, they've been able to propagate that change that is needed and be able to be a better community. So what's the cost of all that? You need to put that into perspective and your current measurement and management system. So once you're able to track it, let's say using an Excel sheet, then you need to choose a system that is going to enable you to measure that. Then after that, you're going to want to have a platform that's going to enable you to verify that. Even before we get to verification, measure that and manage that. Somewhere when you can come, keep seeing how you're doing, improving, changing the data as you wish. Is your system compatible with the impact measurement and management platform that you want to use? There are a lot of platforms that are out here on how to manage and measure impact. But today we will be going through our platform by BLab, which is a BIA. So however you track your impact, however you measure it, should be compatible with the tool that you choose to verify that. Because the tool asks you specific questions, and if you're not able to answer them, then your tracking really becomes irrelevant for this tool. So from the very early stages when you're starting to track, you want to ensure that you are tracking with the tool that you're going to use in mind, so that it's compatible and you're not wasting so much time there. Okay. So like I said, you cannot manage what you do not measure. And what are some of the benefits of measurement and management? So we see that there are positive and negative effects experienced, as we says. Goals looking at intention and constraints. You want to be very, very clear, very rational, very realistic about what you're getting and what you're not getting, about the intentions that you have and the constraints that you have, about the positive and negative effects that you get. You need to be able to put in place the right governance and resources to deliver consistently on those goals. Okay. You need to have the ability to better demonstrate how your organization is making a difference. Sometimes you might have the mission very clear. Sometimes you may actually be having that impact, but you're not able to articulate it properly. So you need to be able to demonstrate how your organization is making a difference. If you start collecting data early, it is easier to scale the data collection is already entrenched instead of trying to retrofit it. So when you start small, right, you can feel like you're small, but if you start now, as the organization grows, you'll be able to fit that perfectly than starting to do that when your organization is so much larger then. Now I'm going to dive into the actual tool that does that and just go through it for a short while as we get to the closing. The B-Impact Assessment tool I talked about, it's a free, confidential, industry-specific online tool. It helps you to measure and manage, compare, and improve a company's social and environmental impact. So how does it look? It helps you improve over time and with strategy. It has like 4 areas that it is divided into, or what it will help you do. It has the educational aspect of it. It will support companies think through organization practices as a whole. And this is the thing, we don't expect you to have 100%, no. We expect you to start somewhere. And the good thing about this tool is if you realize I don't have this, use it as an educational purpose. It helps you know, this is where I could be, this is where I'm at, this is a gap that we have, and this is the improvement that I could do to get there. It helps you set some goals, leverage on tools, on the platform tools to identify areas of improvement, set some goals, and then track progress over time. It even helps you add your team members to the tool so that you're able to work through this, talk about it, see this is where we are lacking, these are the goals that we can make, and assign specific team members to be able to work through this. It's a scorecard. It gives you a holistic picture of company's impact, verifies operational and business model impact, and it helps you also to improve. By visually conceptualizing the impact of your companies, it helps you to facilitate those discussions about impact. So this is a way that report would look like, the BIA report. So if you look at the left side of the screen, you'll see at the top an overall impact score. It will let you know the 80, which is the threshold, let you know where you score, whether you score below it, where you score at above it. And then at the bottom there, it will let you know how you've scored per impact area. Okay. Then on the right side of the screen, it helps you see how you scored per each impact area comparative to the median score. So in comparative with the media score coming from the companies that have already taken this assessment in the past. All right. Now, the very first track of questions of this actual tool will be the track determinant. So you've gone on the BIA itself, and this is how it looks. You've come to this page. So our URL is beimpactassessment.net. This is how it looks. And you've come here and you've said, let's get started. Okay. When you get started, it will open up to a page where you're able to track your impact. You need to create a login. When you create a login, it will access you to the tool itself. Once you access it to the tool itself, the first set of questions it will ask you will be the track determinant questions. This will ask you about the market that you're in, and this is pretty straightforward for us. We're in an emerging market. Then it'll ask you about the sector or industry that you're in. So we have the manufacturing, service, wholesale, retail, agriculture. This is very important because if you choose the wrong sector, it's going to give you questions that are irrelevant for you. You need to be able to be clear on this one. Then it will ask you on the size, whether it's working owners, meaning 0 employees, and then as much as employees as you have. And what this means is that this tool is industry and size agnostic. We cover everyone within the channel. Then once you leave this section, we go to the next section that will ask you about operational impact questions versus impact business models. And this is really the gist of it. This is where we want to see that you're actually having that impact in a way that is forward-looking. Is there something specific about your company design that goes above and beyond to create impact? Then you'll ask me, Grace, what's the difference between these two? So when you talk about operational practices, these are the day-to-day practices. Whereas IBM's impact business models will be part of your company design. You have an impact. Do you make it positive? Those things that you're doing every day, you're doing them to make them positive. Is there something specific about your company design that goes above and beyond to create impact? So is it ingrained in your company design? When you're thinking, comparing between you read a question and you want to know, is this an operational practice or this is an IBM? Are you doing things impactfully or are you doing impactful things? Okay, that's the difference between operational questions and the IBMs. We want more IBMs, whether you have them in your business already or not. This is where we want to end up going. And the good thing about this tool, it will give you time to even create them and kind of be able to track them before you can do that. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how this looks like. So when it comes to hiring, we look at having a diverse workforce as an operational practice. You say, I'm going to hire and I'm going to have a diverse workforce, but you've not structured it, you've not made it in a way that you're accountable to it. But when you talk about an IBM, You say, I'm going to have a workforce development program that targets individuals with barriers to employment. So let's say you want to hire Grace. Grace is here in Nairobi. Grace is educated. Grace has access to opportunities. Grace might not even need some training for you. So it's very easy to hire Grace. But the same way, if Grace comes to your operation and to your business and figures that I don't feel comfortable here, I can quit anytime. But think about hiring somebody from a marginalized community, from an underserved community or an underserved group. This will be people that are living in areas that are systematically marginalized, or groups of people like disabled people or the youth or women, or even in areas like Turkana, right? If you have someone like that, what do? You target that individual specifically with barriers to employment. Then, because they're already there, resources don't get to them directly, you know that you might have to do a good, proper, thorough training for them. So what are you doing? Increasing the skill set. Then once you pay them, it's not just the money for that employee, it goes to affect their whole household and eventually their community. So what do? You actually increase the living standard of other people just because you targeted who you're going to hire. And I hope that's kind of more clear. Let me give you some more examples. When you talk about recycling, you just say, I'm going to recycle your waste, and you have a bucket there. And we put recycling waste there as we wish. It becomes an operational practice. But switching it to become an impact business model, we say we sell recycling services or technology. That is a tool that you're actually doing. So you're targeting your services to be able to recycle, okay? When we talk about donations, donating to charity on occasion, what we'd call CSR, it is not structured, it's not part of the company design, it's not something that you're accountable to anyone. But when you say we have a policy where we have a buy one, give one model, where for every product sold, a product is donated, then we are able to structure that, make it part of the company design, and be able to be accountable to it. Then that becomes an IBM. When we talk about ownership, providing stock options to employees, and we're like, yeah, whether, whenever you want, you can buy stocks or not once, and this is, if you're there or if you're not there. But when we say we are a worker-owned cooperative, so every worker has to be able to own shares within our organization, then we know that that's an IBM, okay? We talk about education, training your employees. You train them whenever you need to, whenever a need arises, right? So it's an operational practice. But when it becomes an IBM, it's part of your company design, and you provide educational products or services intentionally. So the difference is making this part of your company design, and then in a way that you're able to target individuals, you're able to target the shareholder that you want, and you're able to make it accountable. That way you're able to track it over time, you're able to implement it, you're able to track how you are being responsible for it, and actually be able to see the positive impact directly that you're actually having with this impact model. Okay. All right, so getting to the actual stakeholders. So our BIA is divided into 4 impact areas. So when you get to the landing page, this is a page that you will find. So we have the B impact assessment on this side, and we have the Sdg Action Manager on this side. You will not see this left menu when you get in. This is just for me because I can't see the back end. So you're able to see the Sdg Action Manager, and you're able to see the BIA, and then you continue with it, and it opens you to the big impact assessment. At the top there, you're able to see your rate of completion and overall score. Then it opens you to the different impact areas. You see governance, workers, community, environment, customers, and there's a DQ, Disclosure Questionnaire. This one has those questions like, do you smoke, do you drink, that you do when you're applying for a passport or something. Just asking, are you in gambling activities? Are you engaged in mining? Those industries that may be a bit risky when you're talking about impact. Now, when you open each question, you're able to see, for example, governance, their level of impact focus. And I'll just go back to my PowerPoint slide here. So per each impact area, there are questions that you will ask. For example, governance, it will ask you, do you have a mission for your company? And of course, the answer is yes. Is it written down? Probably yes. But is it public facing? Is it hung somewhere? Does the list of your employees know what your mission is? Do they know what you're here to do? Can they articulate what your company is here to do? And not just the mission, but what impact do you look at? What is the picture of success that you want? What practices, policies do you have in place to promote ethical decision-making and prevent corruption? Do you have whistleblower policies? Do you have an ombudsman? Do you do auditing, ethical auditing, as well as financial auditing? You know, do you comply to financial reporting standards? And of course, most of us do. Do you make this publicly available? And that's the question. Are we transparent about these things? When you get to the workers section, you'll be asked questions like, do you have a workers minimum wage or a living wage? Here in Kenya, we don't have a living wage, but we have a minimum wage. And we know that that minimum wage makes living impossible. And right now, cost of living has gone high. And yes, COVID has happened, but what effort are you doing to make sure that your workers are being paid a wage that actually makes sense? Do you hire individuals from underserved groups? You know, the groups like refugees, disabled people, women, youth. Do you have an employee's handbook, and is it available to your workers? Do they know what leave days they're accountable to, sick days, maternity leave, paternity leave? Does your company provide training opportunities to workers for professional development? Do you do it ad hocly when you need it, when you feel like it? Or do you have a policy that dictates that we must have these hours of training every year and you're accountable to it? How do you monitor and evaluate your worker satisfaction and engagement? Okay. It also asks on the community questions there, do you have a supplier code of conduct or a suppliers questionnaire or a minimum requirement for suppliers and vendors? Are your suppliers aligned with your mission and vision? Do you know what their mission is? Are they aligned to yours? Do you just, because get anyone? Do you have a diverse pool of suppliers? Whether we're talking about gender balance, underserved group. In Kenya, we'll talk about tribal balance. Kikuyu, if I feel like also my suppliers are the people who look like me, so want Kikuyus or just women. Are you able to ensure that you have a diverse pool of that? How does your company create an inclusive recruiting and hiring process? How does your company create an equitable and inclusive workplace for employees? Is your executive or senior management diverse, right? How diverse is it? And those are some of the questions you'll ask. So the BIA covers these 5 impact areas. What is in blue will be questions that will go towards the operational practices, and what's in red will be questions that go into the impact business model. Okay. So under governance, when you talk about mission engagement, and that's what I said, in ethics and transparency, then the mission locked will be, how do we make sure the mission that you intended for your business stays there? And we've talked about, when you're going through the IBMs, some of the question there was, you know, are the workers allowed to own some shareholding? And there's a cooperative. A cooperative says that mission is locked forever. And you become a big corp, that mission is locked forever. Okay. When we talk about workers, we look at their financial security, their health, wellness, and safety, their career development, their empowerment and satisfaction. And those are the questions it will ask you. Then the IBMs there will be worker owned. Do you allow them to have some shareholding? And workforce development, not ad hocly, but part of your company policy, part of your company design. When we talk about community, the same applies, as you can see there. The supply chain poverty alleviation for design and designed to give. If I sell this much product, I'll give this much. If I make this much, I'll make this much. And that is good for companies that don't even feel like they're having any impact. If you're purely commercial business, that allows you to have an impact business model. When it comes to the environment section, there's environmental management, air and climate, water, land and life. So how do you deal with all this aspect of the environment? When you talk about recycling, when you talk about carbon offsetting, when you talk about protecting marine life, when you talk about all that. So the IBMs there would be environmentally beneficial products and services, or your company is designed to conserve. When we talk about customer stewardship, how do you listen to your customers? How do you engage your customers? How do you interact with them? Then the IBMs, there will be socially beneficial products and services. For example, let's say your business is working on food, dried fruits, for example, and then you provide them at a lower cost, so it's accessible to your customers, and it's providing a nutritional value to them. And serving underserved populations. So by looking at the target, at the costs of that product or that service, you're able to get to those underserved populations directly. And that is what the BIA would necessarily cover. Yeah, I've said a lot. And so that's how it looks like. Okay, just go back. If you open every section, you're able to get that. I'll open up to questions now. I have one question. What is the minimum amount of positive change or the maximum amount of negative change that is required to make a meaningful difference? So according to the BIA, we only measure positive impact. We don't measure negative impact. And we don't have a maximum score really. What we do is according to the standards that we have developed, if you get 80 on this point, and there's no limited score per impact area, that 80 points are aggregated points. If you look at the questions as you go by, you are able to tell what question has how many marks and how many points. The different answers will give you different points, and you'll be able to tell that. Okay. I have another question. How does BIA verify accuracy of data put by organization? So BIA is a tool. B Lab is the company that's behind the B Corp certification. We have an entirely separate company called the Standards Trust, which sits under B Lab as well, but we have a Chinese wall. So those ones are the ones who are the objective evaluators, and those ones are the ones that deal with the company when they are going through verifications. We take a back step and we are just supportive at that. And when they're doing that, this tool will allow you to upload documentation to show evidence of the answers that you have given, and they will evaluate that, and they'll come back to you and tell you this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. They'll have calls with you, they'll ask for documentation, we will do site visits to just verify that going forward. James Ubonyo, your hand was up.
Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Allow me to pick your mind, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you this from a personal view, and then from now where I work. I'm in the public sector, particularly finance. And now the first thing I was thinking about, because for a long time I've been an enthusiast about SDGs, actually for the UN 2030. And there are areas on which in the finance industry, we are trying to cover and see that we attain that. So now, because in the finance industry, we are having a situation where we are having a hard time finding enterprises to come and list in the capital markets. And we're thinking, how can we fuse now the sustainability now to SMEs, which are now gearing up to be listed as B Lab and B certification? And then it will be a three-part question. The second one, it will be about standardization. You had mentioned that there are many tools, and like personally, I came across another one that I think international. It's called Impact, and I was trying to go through it. Actually, most of the examples they had of the firms were based in Europe and America, and now that I've come across B Lab, which is specific to this country of ours, it's a bit relatable. So the thing is there standardization that there is one tool that fits all, or there are other tools that do the same thing? Or rather, is there a situation where B Lab is not going to be something that every organization is supposed to use to create standardization, or there'll be different ones that provide those scores to be used by the investors? Then the third part of the question would be, we are seeing a situation where now careers are changing. And now this is something that, let's say 10 years ago, were not there because the SDGs came like a few years ago. So now we're finding stations where now we need to have skills as to which we can actually even score business on their impact and sustainability. So what's the future of this career? And if it's so, will it be possible to be certifications that's to mark people who are proficient in that area, or now that we're even having tools, like you say, you have your tool, is it an area to like people would go and try to read more into, or we've been overtaken by AI and tools and computer? Thank you.
Thank you, James, for your three-part question. The first question was, I think, businesses and sustainability, and how in the finance sector you can, which tools to use to be able to access this, to see the benefit that these companies are having. Here's the thing, all of us as businesses, we are working towards some sort of sustainability, towards the SDGs, but we don't have a way of measuring that really. And so we have those two tools I've talked about, the BIA and the Sdg Action Manager. The downfall of the Sdg Action Manager is that it's not verified. So we're not able to verify what the organization put in as true or false. It's a very self-reporting tool, and that's why it cannot be used for external purposes of reporting. But they have questions that have been drawn from the BIA, with the BIA is verified, and it has been, so it can be used for outside reporting. So for you, I would say, if you want that verification, probably go the BIA way. The beauty about the BIA, like I showed you, it is industry agnostic, it is size agnostic, it is market agnostic. So depending on where you are, it will ask you relevant questions. And this becomes the overarching thing when you're asking, is it like a standardization tool? It could be used as a standardization tool where when you decide in your organization, this is how you're going to measure impact. Remember when you were talking about, you need to figure out how you're tracking your impact so that you're able to make it compatible with the tool that you use for that. For B Lab and for B Corp certification, we are here in market now, and we've been here since 2017. And that's what we're working towards, helping businesses be able to get there. And so you can use it as a standardization tool for you, where you're able to see that you're measuring businesses with the same tool. So you're able to do a bunch of benchmarking, you're able to do the reporting on there if you decide to use this tool. And the good thing is, because we're here in market, we understand the market. The good thing about our tool also is revised every 3 years. Every 3 years we have a new tool, and we put in more relevant questions for the markets that we are in every year that we do this. So it's good. I would say it can be used as an decision tool if you like it, but use the one that's verified. That way it makes sense for you. The third one was about careers. You know, when you talk about AI is a program. You have to program it to give it some things, but some of the things, because of the industry, the cultures, the way they're different in the market, you need that human perspective. It's a career path that is growing, that was not there as much before. It is growing, and I don't think AI will wipe it out, because you need that human aspect to be there. But let me say that the B Impact Assessment tool is for businesses only, not individuals. For-profit businesses, we do not measure, or rather verify, impact for non-profits. Non-profits can use the tool for just their own self-reporting to just see how they score, but we only verify for-profit businesses. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, there's some part, sorry, Grace. I forgot to mention, when I talked about the finance sector, it's actually the public sector. So I was like,
public sector.
Yeah. Could there be a fuse between B Lab and trying to rope in public sector in trying to make them understand that this is the way to go and its benefits? Thank you.
2 ways I would think about it, because we look for-profit businesses. The only way we work with public sector, which would be like government, is based on the policies that we have created, and that there could be a conversation there to talk about the benefit corporation, so that we encourage businesses to sign up as benefit corporations. And because they are benefit corporations, there's a criteria of what they're supposed to uphold, and therefore directly they are able to be held up to that standard. Because remember, we have to create standards that we're able to measure upon. So those standards that they'll be able to measure up. When you talk about B Corp certification itself, we are open to see collaborations that could work to be able to help businesses get there. That is open. We can be able to curate something that will be able to help us work together to get there. James. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I have a long question here. Measuring the impact of startup incubator accelerator programs appear to rise from: 1, ascertaining the unit of analysis. Is the founder who may start 3 companies with 5 years, or the company which may die by the second year, result in attribution, as the founder is likely to benefit from multiple programs they take part in. Reliability of assessment. Can an incubator without bias assess their own impact? I think, I understand you have multiple businesses and you want to see you're benefiting from one. It's not around for the rest. As an incubator, you can start your assessment, but remember, after you have completed the assessment and you have a score of 80, that's the only time you can submit it for verification. And then verification is a verification of the answers you put in when you're doing your self-assessment. So you're actually not assessing yourself. We can assess any businesses that are from 0 to however big they are. We are not agnostic to any industry or any size. So once you've done your self-reporting and you submit your assessment, then a third party steps in to be able to verify what you've actually put in. And if you maintain that 80 score at the end of it, then yes, you're actually having impact according to the threshold that we have and the standards that we've put on there. I hope that answers. And that removes the chaff from the wheat, you know. You're able to see these are the mistakes I'm making. And if you're a founder that is using different channels not to get to the end, then chances are you'll not get to the threshold because you don't have that consistency. Oh, I should have said this. We don't measure futuristically. We don't measure on what you intend to do. We measure on what you did for the last 1 year. So the companies that we assess must have been in operations for at least 1 year. So we assess based on the last physical year and not futuristic. That's why we are able to verify it. And that's why we are able to see that your demonstrated capacity, but not futuristic, aside from the Sdg Action Manager, which is very futuristic. I hope that answers our questions. Davis, you say, I like your response on not measuring the negative impacts. Dips and drops hurt much more as opposed to gains, even if the loss is equivalent to the gains made. Yeah, I feel you. At B-Lab, we don't measure the negative, we only measure the positive. I think it's also trying to encourage businesses that you can be a force for good. But remember, what it means for you is if you're not getting to the 80 score, it means probably you have more negative impact. And the answers per question, like I said, are attributed at different score. So the scores that have a lower impact. So you'll be able to see the scores that have a lower impact actually not making the threshold. So you're able to see, to a certain extent, what kind of negative impact you're having, and then you're able to improve on it. But to say that this is exactly the negative impacts that you have, we don't do that. But how you perform can be an indicator for you on how negative you have, you're scoring or not. And I think that's the end of my questions. Any other question? No. Okay, so my parting shot is here that businesses need to come together for their communities. We need that interdependence. And that's why ASEC is here to come up with a uniting voice where we can be able to propagate the needs of our SMEs, the needs of our startups, the needs of our hubs, and the needs of our enablers. We need to work with each other. That spirit of interdependence is the key to our success in this country, in this region. Any company that wants to become a B Corp is assessed on their contribution to their local community. This could be via making charitable donations, establishing purchasing policies that emphasize local suppliers, or employing people from disadvantaged communities, and that we've talked about. Remember, try to make this part of your company design and not operational practices. By focusing on our local community, we may very well be saving a small business owner or from going under, or preventing someone from suffering mental health issues after being forced into self-isolation, as it is now with COVID. Being careful that in our hubs, in the programs that you're having, we have, it's a holistic approach to that program. We're not just thinking about the profits. We're not just thinking about profit, but purpose as well. And purpose is past the shareholders. How do we hold them accountable? How do we put them together? And maybe perhaps someone will see the positive environmental impact and decide in the future to travel by bike, rather than car, wherever it's possible. For right now, because we are sitting in traffic, especially right now because of the construction of Mombasa Road in Nairobi. There's so much carbon emissions that you're emitting, but you also have the option from working from home. However, you're able to do those small things you're able to do to create a positive impact, whether it's social impact, whether it's environmental impact. Those small things that you do, if you just turned them around and made them part of your company design, you'll be shocked on how much that skill of the positive impact you're having would change. Let's move away, if we can, from doing this ad hocly corporate social responsibility when we can, when we feel like, when you have the money, and make them part of our company designs, not big things, small things, and we'll be able to get that positive impact. So I welcome you today to log into the B Impact Assessment. Like I said, it's bimpactassessment.net. Start completing your BIA. Then consider that aggregate score for submission or not, improvement purposes. And we're here to help you track that, so that you're able to track, measure, and manage your impact. My name is Grace Wasseri. That's my email address. gwachori@blab-labeastafrica.net. I'm the community engagement lead. And that is our website. Thank you, Diana. You're saying this is a wonderful, insightful webinar. I look forward to receiving the link to the recording. You are welcome. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and have a great weekend. I'll hand it over back to Michelle. And thank you for staying past the time. Sorry.
Thank you so much all for joining. Thank you so much, Grace. Yes, you're right. Let's use our companies as a positive force for good, and not just by doing company designs, but also through impact assessment tools to track our performance. Thank you all for joining. We shall share a recording of this session to you on email and also on YouTube and on our newsletters. Stay tuned for our next event, and thank you and God bless.